Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Gemini September through October 2022 Illumination reading. This is I'm Illuminated Tarot, a place for you to better connect with and illuminate your own personal spiritual importance. And what does that mean? That means that in today's reading, we are going to be taking a look at a challenge that Spirit is asking you to face and overcome so that you can better engage with your unique spirit. That part of ourselves that rises up and out to meet the challenges we are faced with. And this is so that you can better unlock your own heroic capabilities, those parts of ourselves that lie hidden. And this is in an effort to allow you to better be able to see your path, understand your purpose, and get closer to those feelings of emotional fulfillment that come when we know where we fit, where we get a chance to see where we as a unique individual can be of service to the greater collective experience. Okay, Geminis, I'm starting here by pulling some cards to take a look at the energy you're bringing into the month of September and October. Then we'll take a look at what is going on around you and then what you're learning about yourself. And then we'll dive deeper into looking at the blocks that you'll be facing and advice from Spirit on how to overcome those. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead here and just finalize this, kind of what I would like to call the bones of the reading here. So you're bringing with you into the month of September and October, the Knight of Cups. And the energy of the Knight of Cups is one that I always like to refer to as the hopeful romantic. Not the hopeless romantic, but the hopeful romantic. This is an energy of wanting to go out from a place of connecting deeply to your emotions and wanting to share that, to communicate from that place. You can see he's on his horse. He's ready to go out with his cup that holds, it's the cup of his emotions and his emotional needs, the things that will engage him and connect him to his outward experience through what he needs to have fulfilled emotionally. So these can be hopes and dreams and desires. But there's also an element here, as you can see, he's wearing a winged helmet, and that brings in the energy of Mercury. And Gemini, you are a sign ruled by Mercury. And currently, we are actually in a Mercury retrograde. And it's a very long Mercury retrograde. It's a little bit of an unusual one this year. And it's one that really asks us to take a look and reevaluate how we communicate in relationships, how we bring our emotional needs into relationships. But it's also one of just, again, revisiting how we communicate, because that's part of every Mercury retrograde. And because it rules your sign, this is hitting you a little extra, if that makes sense. So I do see here that many of you are going within and really connecting with those needs, those wants, those dreams, and are looking to connect those optimistically and communicate from that place, which is wonderful. Now, in your external environment, we have the devil. And this doesn't mean that evil is lurking around you. It means that there are going to be things in your external environment over the next couple of months that are basically going to show you where you have actually been restraining yourself, where there are things in your external environment. Now, this could actually be where things from the past come up, where maybe you had freed yourself from something. It could be that maybe you had left a job in the past that had felt confining or no longer fit your skill set. And now that might be coming up again as you're looking to, kind of go out there and start to really share what you need. You might be realizing that as you communicate that in a work environment, they may come back and say, well, I'm sorry, we can't meet those needs. And suddenly you're faced again with a similar challenge of, will I stay restrained then and continue to work in that environment and just kind of hold my tongue? Or am I ready to cut the chains and start to seek out again a more supportive work environment, one that will support these needs I want to have hopefully met? This could also be in relationships where suddenly you're ready to go out again as this kind of fresh version of yourself. You're excited to go out, and then you might actually meet someone who is a mirror of a past relationship, maybe someone who is controlling or brings up issues of codependency. And this is that beautiful place to really learn that lesson and free yourself kind of finally that without having to relearn the lesson again, because we have the Hanged Man underscored by the Ten of Swords and Temperance. Now, this really shows with the Hanged Man, there's this feeling of Piscean energy coming in. Actually, both of these cards are cards with Piscean energy. So for a lot of you, there is going to be this kind of, it's almost like, I always look at Pisces and Gemini kind of linked together. You're both signs that have a duality that come in to play. So Gemini, you are the twins, and Pisces, you are the fish, the one fish that swims up to the heavens and one fish that swims down into the emotional depths. And both of you, both signs have the capability to really, again, go kind of up and down, to show a light side or a dark side, or to dive into the depths of emotions or up into the heights of our imagination. And I think really what you're experiencing by tapping into that Piscean energy over the next couple of months is really being able to take a look at both sides to who you are as an individual, to really be able to see the light side of yourself and the dark side, to see areas where you might have held yourself back in the past, areas where you have since healed, and to bring those two together. And to see it from a new perspective, because that's what the Hanged Man speaks to. This speaks to that ability to see what is currently, but from a new perspective. He hangs himself upside down to see it in a new way. And this is where the revelation comes in for you, I think, where perhaps there might have been a time where you had run from something in your life. The Ten of Swords denotes a period of time in your life where you were brought to your knees, kind of hitting that rock bottom moment of, wow, there's no place to go but up from here. And with Temperance coming in underneath that, it shows that there was a need to balance emotions with some other aspect of your experience, generally with your thoughts or something else. And perhaps that emotional quotient, this is what I'm picking up intuitively, had been pushed to the side, meaning that maybe you were just going along for the ride in some aspect of your life and not bringing your emotions into that. And that's what ended up leading you to this Ten of Swords. And now you're able to see, I think, where that time actually can be of benefit to you now, and realizing I'm not going to, it's my emotions that are a gift. Because Gemini, you're a sign obviously that is ruled by Mercury, and one that is ruled by the mental side to our experience. Your motto in the world of astrology is I think. So you spend a lot of time in the mind space. And not often does this come down into the emotional space. And this is where you get that chance to really have that second chance at bringing your cup into play, meaning bringing your emotions into and engaging that with your external environment, so that you can break the chains of what has held you back in the past and which could possibly this month be holding you back. And in doing so, you're really going to see where you've learned how important your needs, wants, and dreams are. And I think that's also that you can unlock kind of the next adventure coming in. That's what I always see with the Knight of Cups. There's an element here when it comes in this position as I'm ready. I'm optimistically looking towards the future. I'm optimistically looking to get on my horse and go out there again. So I'm going to pull cards now to take a look at the blocks that you're going to be facing and the advice from Spirit as to where you should focus to really help you move past the blocks and what you can gain if you do. So let's see here. And I really do love that Piscean energy for you, because it does bring you down into kind of that, Pisces is a water sign. It's bringing you into that emotional space But the beautiful thing about Piscean energy and the sign of Pisces in general is that Pisces is the last sign in the zodiac, and it holds with it all of the traits and lessons learned from the other 11 zodiac signs. So there's an element of really being able to, again, understand the importance of the mind as much as the emotions, but also all of the other things that come into play in our experience, both physical and, yes, emotional, but even on the spiritual and passionate side. So it's allowing you to kind of tap into that universal knowledge, the energy of universal knowledge, to give you the courage to, I think, finally see some point in your life that felt very disruptive and probably hurtful. Ooh, and Tower coming up, yeah. And really see it in a new way as possibly the thing that actually is what liberated you. And maybe even up until this very moment, you might have seen it as, something that's been holding you back. Now, I don't normally pull reversals, but it did come up here. So I'm going to honor that. When they do come out, I do honor it just because the obviously Spirit is giving us an extra special message there. So now I want to actually preface this right here in the middle of this reading, in that I've noticed myself in the readings I've been giving, in the readings I've even been doing for myself, that because we're in Mercury retrograde, and because this is a very kind of powerful Mercury retrograde, I've noticed that a lot of these readings are focusing on something that has happened in the past. That, yes, this is energy that we are dealing with now, but the events or the things that are showing up here are things that we've gone through in the past and we are now revisiting. So this may not be that you are going to, go through this dramatic period now. Let's say that the Ten of Swords. This is saying that this is a time when most likely you had experienced this in the past, and now you're being forced to kind of revisit it from a new perspective. So the Tower coming up as your main challenge, yeah, that can be a disruptive energy. The Tower is one where we have basically kind of walled ourselves in a tower because we found it safe at one point. We found it safe, we found it comfortable, and we got a little too comfortable in that space. So comfortable that we actually lost sight of our ability to see the stars outside, and with that, to be able to find our guiding star. And so this can happen when we don't leave a job because we are comfortable in that job, even though it's time for us to level up someplace else. Or this can be when we sit in a relationship that has long since kind of expired or run its course, and we stay in that relationship trying to make it work. And then what happens is Spirit has to come in and say, I'm sorry, we've tried to give you the gentle nudges to move on, but we're going to have to come in now and knock that tower down. And that can be that can happen in ways where all of a sudden you are let go from that job, surprisingly in the moment, or where the individual you're with suddenly leaves you instead of you leaving them. It's one of those things where something happens to force the issue, but it's all in an effort to liberate you. And that's the beauty of when that happens. There's nothing else you can do except let the tower fall and realize that it's all in an effort for you to regain your vision towards your guiding star and rebuild on a better foundation. Okay. So, yeah, this is going to be a big couple months for you. It's definitely a big couple months for everyone, but this is going to be big for you in the way that this is going to be a very liberating month for you, Gemini, on many levels, but I do think specifically emotionally. Oh, and another reversal. Goodness. Okay, well, there we go. And again, we have the High Priestess coming up, another card of Piscean energy. You get a lot of water energies. We have the King of Cups, Death, Queen of Cups, and the High Priestess. So right after the Tower is the King of Cups reversed. Now, the King of Cups upright is a card that really brings in the energy of Scorpio. It's can be seen as someone who has a great level of emotional maturity. It can even be somebody who is more of like a spiritual counselor or teacher in that realm, but it's someone who really holds their emotions front and center, but also is someone who is not going to overshare, or someone who is not going to drown in their cup of emotions. Is someone who has learned that emotional maturity and how to wield their emotions in a positive and beneficial way in their life. Now, when this is reversed, this can really speak to a lack of emotional maturity, one where we turn our backs on our emotions and where we don't want to incorporate them into our everyday experience. And I think for some of you, that is the tower coming down, is if you can let the tower come down on an emotional level for you to realize, or if you're facing again something that happened, an event, a somewhat traumatic event that happened in the past where there was a lack of emotional maturity involved, either you or the other person. And this, with death coming up in the middle, this is the heart of your reading. What Spirit's asking you to embrace is to let this go. Whatever this time in your life was where something was removed or something was altered on a very large level, and there was an element of emotional immaturity, it's time for you to realize emotional immaturity doesn't necessarily mean that you were the one, let's say, or the other individual was the one to like lash out, or emotional immaturity can actually be where we're not aware of our emotions in a mature way, meaning we have not allowed ourselves to kind of go to that place where we have been working on our emotions the same way we'd work on reading or doing math problems, that we have to work on using our emotions and sharing our emotions and bringing those into our daily experience just as much as we do any other aspect of our experience. And so this can be where perhaps you had not done that. You hadn't done the work. And so you didn't know how to communicate your emotions effectively. And maybe you did something like hide them. Maybe you became a workaholic. Maybe you became an alcoholic. There's all kinds of ways that we can do something to hide our inability to process emotions effectively. And with death coming in, it's saying it's time to release that version of yourself, whether there's guilt involved with it, whether there's just that level of trauma where it just kind of stays with you and you're like, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe I didn't share this with that person. I can't believe I handled it in that way. I can't believe the reverse, I can't believe I said this to that person. If I could go back in time, I would never have said something like that, or I would never have acted in that way, or I would never, that kind of thing is saying it's time to let that go. Because the journey of the hopeful romantic is someone who has left this in the past and is ready to move forward in an optimistic way again. And if you can embrace the energy of change, what lies on the other side is the grand adventure, is freedom, is the realization of how far you've come and how emotionally mature you are compared to back then. Because on the other side, we have the Queen of Cups, and the Queen of Cups is an incredibly emotionally mature individual. She is someone who holds her emotions dear and important, and she understands that she can share those with others. She is kind of the maternal archetype. She is someone who would give unconditional love to others because she honors what's in her cup. And so she honors what's in other people's cups as well, meaning that she holds her emotions very important and dear. And so she would also hold another's emotions very important and dear. But this is also the energy of self-mothering, of, again, understanding the importance of your emotions and the needs, the wants, and the dreams that must be met or followed or pursued to allow for your emotional connection to be healthy and to be happy and joyful. And so there's this beautiful ability here to really kind of go from a point where you felt, I think, when you like looking back, like, wow, this can actually be kind of like the feeling of like, wow, I was a dummy. I should have done that better. And now you're being shown you can. But from a way that's much more, when we think about the King of Cups, now I think these are showing very similar energies. It's just that in this deck, Spirit couldn't produce the same two cards. But I do like that there's almost like the father archetype, which is the archetype of doing things. The king energy is really about doing things with the kind of undercurrent of doing it for the greater good. When we think of the traditional father archetype, this is the individual who's going to, take 12 jobs to make sure that the family's needs are met. Not to say that women can't do the same. It's just this is a societal norm that we, over the past maybe 100 years, have kind of put into place. Now, the queen energy, harnessing the feminine side to that, is the one who's going to, instead of doing it for others, she does it for herself. And in doing it for herself, she is able to then give from that place of wholeness. So there's kind of an element of going from the masculine to the feminine energy, but within the same realm. So you're kind of moving from doing it for the greater good to doing it for myself, for my greater good, which then becomes the greater good of all. And with the High Priestess coming in at the end here, reversed, the High Priestess is one of deep knowing. It's one where we balance the yin and the yang, we understand the light and the dark, and we make a decision based on our intuition, based on that internal knowing. And reverse, this can be where we are refusing to accept that, where we sit here and we say, yeah, but we don't know. It can actually be one where you're revisiting where you did not trust your intuition. With these two cards kind of coming up together. And if you can, again, release the past, because death is a very final card. When we talk about release, there's nothing more final than death. To say it's time to totally release that part of yourself, to see that part, to see that event in a different way, to see that as an event in your life that with Temperance coming in was part of divine timing, divine will, to get you to a place basically to balance out some aspect of yourself that needed to be rebalanced, that needed to have attention brought to it. And if you can change your perspective to say, wow, actually, what I thought was my worst moment was actually my best moment because it got me to this point. This is saying you can sit there and say, yes, I can't trust my intuition. I can't trust my inner knowing. And the Queen of Cups says, yes, you can. She's an incredibly intuitive individual because she connects to her entire experience through her emotions. And she's able to have confidence in that. And this is about facing a time, and I do think with the Devil coming in this element of breaking those chains, I think this is about facing a time when you look back, ignored your intuition and didn't do something you needed to do. And this is about facing it and saying, this time I would do it differently. And being able to see all the changes you've made. And this can be like the kind of the tower happening again, like the revelation moment of, oh my gosh, if I could do it again today, I would have done it so differently. So in this moment, if I'm presented with a situation that comes up again like that, I know I am fully confident in my ability to handle it in a much more mature way. I can handle a new relationship knowing that my actions will not be those of the past. I can enter a new work environment knowing that I will never put myself in a place where I get so frustrated I lash out at my manager. It's that kind of knowing that all of a sudden you realize, wow, I've changed so much. I am so much more emotionally mature. I am so much more aware of who I am and the importance of my emotions and how I express that I will never let my intuition go. I will never turn my back on my own intuition. Instead, I'm going to embrace that and finally move past and see something, move past a traumatic past event and see it as a blessing instead of a curse, because the blessing in that is making me be able to realize today just how much stronger, and probably for many of you, talents, some part of your experience that you had and were forced to focus on coming out of this traumatic part of your life that since have become your greatest strengths. Okay, so that's the true gift in the next couple months, is seeing something in whatever you've gone through and realizing that it probably helped you focus somewhere. This can be where maybe, like I'm thinking of my own personal self. I went through a very dramatic experience just like this, where all at the same time I was left questioning my career path. I was, breaking up with my significant other who I had been with for many years. My entire life was in flux and change. The tower was coming down. But the one thing that I actually did focus on was reconnecting to my spirit and my emotional experience. And through that, I actually connected to tarot and to astrology and to aspects of my experience that I had not connected with. And that became a strength of mine. And so there might be something like that for some of you out there, that you realize, wow, to kind of get me through the tough time, I started writing. And I love writing. And if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't have this gift of writing that I allow my emotional experience to connect through. Or I started going on social media and I went down a rabbit hole on TikTok. And now I've learned how to master working on that platform, because I kind of hid myself in there, and suddenly now you might have social media skills that you can share with others. It's an interesting thing sometimes in what we choose to turn to when we go through those moments of, kind of trauma, just to help us kind of keep our minds on something else. And therein often lies the gift in that entire experience. But it takes a while to look back and be able to see that. Okay. So let's go ahead. I'm going to pull. Oh, you know what, guys? I'm so sorry. I'm getting caught up here. I'm talking, and I totally forgot that we were going to pull some clarifier cards here before I go into additional advice from Spirit. So let's go ahead and pull some clarifiers here. I'm going to dive deeper into that tower to see what has come down and perhaps what is coming down for some of you. Where is this point? 5 of Wands, okay. Element of chaos. It can also be an element of competition. This might even be the fear of kind of jumping into the competition. So we have 3 of Coins, we have 10 of Wands, and we have the Page of Wands. Let's go ahead here. So 3 of Coins is one where we see the greater vision for ourselves, where it's almost like kind of having the blueprints for something that we intend to put our time and energy and effort towards. It's also one where we get together and we plan with others. We understand that we can build it bigger and stronger and faster when we build it together. But with the 10 of Wands, there's this element of you having felt at some point that you had to bear the entire burden yourself of making that reality, that dream come true. And with the Page of Wands coming in, this is that liberation. If you notice, this is very different energy. 10 of Wands, somebody who is burdened and trying to keep all the, all the things in place. This is someone who is free and like a child ready to go out there and take action from a true place of unburdened freedom. And so there is this feeling, I think, for some of you that there was a level of chaos, a level where maybe you felt like you were kind of getting lost in the fray. That's what I'm feeling with this here, that you were going out there, you were trying to do your best, you had a vision for where you wanted to be, but you felt that you had to carry the whole burden yourself, that possibly another person, a partner, was not willing to pick up the load, so to speak, the other half of this. Or maybe you were in a work environment where it was chaotic and you were like, look, I can see a better way to do this, everybody. Let's all get on board and make it happen. And yet you were saddled with doing all of the work instead. And this is that point where you say, no, the tower came down. Maybe it was that cracking open, that moment where you're like, I can't do the work anymore. I just can't take it all. And I can see how much further your business can go, but I'm not getting any help. And so I quit. And there you were free in that moment to go out again as the free, independent child. So I can compare this to my story where, yes, I felt like I was carrying all of these burdens, and suddenly everything kind of fell apart. But it did liberate me to go out and start chasing my passions again, to the point where even though it was difficult in the moment for me to leave a long-term relationship, it allowed me to focus on myself instead of the relationship and someone else in the picture. So there was an element of freedom. Yes, at the time, did I want the tower to come down? No. But ultimately, it led to this freedom. So that's what's saying here. Whatever happened in the past, that's what led to you. It allowed you to put the burden down and to free yourself to focus on yourself. Okay, so let's see about the King of Cups reversed. Okay, we have 10 of Coins. Yeah, there was something here about working towards, a larger, 10 of Coins speaks to kind of our ultimate legacy, or it can speak to really what our grand dream of what we want to achieve for ourselves made manifest in the physical. And this is really showing that you probably had to give that up at some point, that you were not communicating what you really wanted for yourself. But more than likely, with the Tower coming in followed by the King of Cups reversed, there's an element of you probably you weren't able to make it happen, let's say, and you weren't able to communicate how that made you feel. Maybe it was one of those things where you were in a relationship where one person wanted to have children and the other person didn't. But instead of communicating how that made you feel or how important that was to you, it might have just turned into a big fight and you walked out. Or again, something along the lines of you admitting to yourself what you ultimately wanted to achieve. This could be that maybe you had told yourself you were going to be making 6 figures by a specific time frame, and that was part of what you wanted to experience. That was your 10 of Pentacles here, and yet you were denied that raise time and time again. And instead of saying, I'm going to understand that that's what I want, that's what I need, and I'm going to just, in an emotionally mature way, realize it's time for me to go out and find a new job that will pay me that. I instead acted out from a place of immaturity within my own workplace, and it didn't quite work out. And so with the Strength and the 7 of Coins, this is really stating here that even though you went through this, it's time to, with the Strength and 7 of Coins, I think for some of you, you sat in this place of deliberation for quite some time where it was like, okay, I have enough. I have 7 Pentacles, but it's not my 10 of Pentacles. It's not really what I was hoping for. Again, this could come back to, I'm just using this as an example. Let's say you wanted kids and the other person didn't. And you're like, yeah, the home is great and, everything's fine. And I love the person I'm with, my partner, but I really want to have children. That's something that is part of my lasting legacy. It's something that calls to me, something that I'm emotionally tied to. And this was saying that you had to have the strength to make the decision from that place to say, it's not enough. And it's time for me to make a change. I can no longer invest time and energy and effort into this thing because I see my 10 of Pentacles. I see that I need children. And so it was having the strength to be able to understand that what you were looking at in your physical experience wasn't enough for you. And yeah, that can definitely be difficult, or you could be looking at, the pieces of something that fell apart. Maybe you were on the other side of a marriage and the person left you and you're realizing, I thought I was working towards this and suddenly now I'm left kind of looking and at what I'm left with after they left me? And can I have the strength to keep going, to keep kind of picking up the pieces and to rebuild? And I think for many of you, yeah, you did. you got that courage, and you either realized something wasn't enough, so you changed your circumstance, or you realized I still have to work with what I have and I'm going to make it happen. Okay, for death, wow, we have quite a few things. We have the World, we have the Knight of Swords, we have the Ten of Cups, and the Seven of Wands. Yeah, okay, so this is really speaking to, it could be very specific here, but the World, something came to a final conclusion. The World is similar to death, a hard stop. It's where we realize a major life cycle in our experience has ended. It's time for us to kind of learn the lessons of what we went through. And with the Knight of Swords, there was something about a quick communication around something that brought you incredible emotional fulfillment. Now, this could be where, with the Ten of Cups, you can see there's almost like an image of a wedding cake on here and two individuals. And often this can be seen as like the happy family card, but I like to see this as the ultimate kind of heart's fulfillment of what we would love to experience on an emotional level in our experience. But I do think there was kind of a hard and fast end to something that you didn't want to have ended. That this was either the loss, again, of a relationship. Again, with the Knight of Swords, this is quick communication that kind of came in out of the blue. This can actually be somebody even now as you're revisiting a past trauma. This could be somebody coming in and saying, like revisiting the breakup, revisiting the point where you were fired or you walked out of a job, or revisiting that fight you had with your mom, something along those lines that really brought something to an end. And where at this point, it's time to let that go. I think that you were kind of left in the Seven of Wands energy of where you were kind of trying to defend your actions, trying to defend, maybe clinging to the past, clinging to the job, clinging to the viewpoint you have on a time when things were better. But something came to an end. And death is saying, whatever this time was, whatever was communicated to you around this. So again, whether this was you lashing out or somebody else, there's a big theme here of kind of like losing your, SHIT. And either you or somebody else did this and something came to a hard and fast end. And it's time to release that. Whether it was a relationship, whether it was a work environment, whether it was a family fight, something along those lines. And it's time to let the past be in the past. Okay, now we have the Queen of Cups. Let's see, what does Gemini need to know about the Queen of Cups? Okay, King of Coins. Yeah. You have the ability to, and the Star. I love that. There's something here around your ability that once you really start to honor your emotions, give yourself that unconditional love to hold your dreams and your needs, make them important and first and foremost. This is where you have the ability to see your star. So here's the star, that guiding star that comes after the tower comes down. It's that grand hope dream for yourself that you'd love to achieve or are constantly following. And then the King of Coins. This is someone who has mastered manifesting in the physical. This could be where you, as you really step up into your power, you realize your own ability to manifest. You realize that there's still a dream. I think for a lot of you, you're realizing there's still a dream that you want to pursue in manifesting something. There's a legacy here. There's a Ten of Pentacles hiding in here that you, I think, are reconnecting to in September and October, where you realize, wow, I can make more money and I've started to hold myself back again, or I can have that larger home and I've held myself back at a certain point again. Like maybe I moved from having a 2-bedroom apartment into a 2-bedroom condo. And that was really cool at the time for me to level up in that way and to buy my first place. But now I'm holding myself back from making the next change, which I know needs to be a larger home. So there's something along those lines where you're reconnecting with the unconditional love for yourself. You're reconnecting to a deep need that you need to have fulfilled that relates specifically to what you can manifest for yourself and how much you want to manifest for yourself. And with the star involved, this really is allowing you to see that you can make money from doing something you love. And I love that for you, Gemini. But you have to love yourself first. You have to understand that what you love is important. And once you make that very clear to yourself, when you start to communicate that from that place with this hopeful romantic element, the Knight of Cups, and you're fearless in that, that's where that opportunity is going to come in for you. That's where the money will start to flow abundantly and without effort. Okay, let's take a look at the High Priestess. 5 of Coins. Yeah, there's an element here of that lack mentality coming in, of where you were left out in the cold before because you didn't follow your intuition. You knew something wasn't right. You knew you should have left that job sooner. You knew you should have left that friend group. You knew you shouldn't have, engaged with your mom in that way, or you knew you shouldn't have taken on those 6 extra projects to impress a past boss, whatever it is. And yeah, it did. It left you out in the cold. But this is saying that this time around, you know the truth. Knight of Swords, 8 of Wands. You know the truth. The King of Swords knows the truth. He speaks the truth. And he's mastered his thoughts as well. 3 of Cups here. There can be something around... there might have been a third party situation. There might have been too much drinking involved, or it could have been even a community around you, that you had a support group that left you out in the cold, that something didn't work when you were trying to, in the past, communicate from that place, celebrate who you were, bring your cup to the party, and you didn't follow your instinct. Maybe you joined a friend group that you knew on some level you didn't quite click with, but you tried to fit in, or you were working in an environment and a career path where you're like, I could do more, or, I don't really love what I'm doing, but I can try to force myself to do this. There's something here where, again, you went against your better judgment and it didn't work out and you were left out in the cold. But now with the King of Swords and the 8 of Wands, it's saying, you know the truth now, and you know where you need to take action. The 8 of Wands can be fast communication, quick action. It's one where we get the wheels turning again, where we are on our track. We've gotten on the train and we're moving towards our final destination. And this can even be moving towards your star, where you're realizing the truth is, it's time for me to take action here again. I've been holding myself back. There's something that there's new chains that are keeping me from going out as this new version of myself to share my cup. And the truth of the matter is, it's been me that's been holding myself back. It's my connection to whatever happened in the past that's preventing me from going out and being this brightest version of myself, allowing me to share my emotions, allowing me to communicate from that place, allowing me to do something now that I know I need to do to help me do something I love, and and really manifest from that place, something that's going to be tied directly to manifesting something that I want to manifest in the physical, my legacy. Okay, so now I'm going to pull 3 additional cards here to get additional advice from Spirit. So the first card is going to be one for the concept of curiosity. And this is where Spirit would like you to stay open and curious so that you can make room for the miracle that wants to come in for you. All right, so we have appreciation, number 15, breaking down to the number 6. The number 6 speaks to the number of love, the number of family, the number of working towards a spiritual goal with others. It's a beautiful number to have with appreciation. And I always love this card because it shows an individual who's surrounded by a bunch of scraggly bushes that look half dead. And yet there's this little tiny bunch of flowers back here, and she's holding one of them very proudly. And there's this element of, where can you be curious, perhaps in kind of like what I was referencing earlier? Where can you see the benefit to the traumatic or the very difficult time period you went through in the past? Where is the hidden flowers that came into bloom for you, and how can you proudly show them? There's a very similar gesture to both of these. These are two proud individuals who she will share that she will sit there and say, look at this beautiful rose that I have. It's gorgeous. She doesn't care that the rest of it's all scraggly and whatever. She's going to proudly show that because she has deep appreciation for how much work she knows had to go in to even just getting that little bit to bloom. Same with him. He's proudly going out there with this cup because he understands the beauty of what lies within it. And he knows it's important to share that with others. So where can you be curious as to some aspect of your experience that you do appreciate, but which maybe perhaps you've been a little fearful maybe in showing to others and saying, I'm proud of this. I'm proud that it took me all this time. Maybe I didn't quite master the art of gardening yet, but look at what I've been able to create so far. I know I appreciate it. Let me see. Here we go. Okay, Armadillo Spirit says set healthy boundaries, number 3. I like that. When we think about appreciation for what you have, well, how can this individual who maybe did spend a bunch of time and energy trying to get all of these plants to bloom, maybe she only got that little bit to bloom, well, now how can she protect that? If she's so proud of this and she enjoys it so much, how can she set boundaries to allow herself to continue to grow a little bit more at a time from this place? Could she actually take a part of that plant and uproot it and plant it someplace else? And that would involve putting up perhaps a fence to keep wild animals away or to keep out pests. This would involve putting the boundaries in place that allow for that blessing to continue to thrive and grow. So there is something here around really, once you find that thing you appreciate that came out of all of this, it's time for you to hold it dear and special and to get ready to put the things in place to start to grow it again. So whether this is growing again a new relationship, growing a talent that you've discovered, growing a career path, growing even a relationship between you and a family member that maybe, that you had to rely on during a traumatic time, and suddenly that relationship is the bloom. That relationship, so you want to give time to that relationship. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and, this could be like, I look at this for myself. One of the gifts that I got out of all that I went through was my daughter. The ability for me to have a new relationship and to actually become a mother at a somewhat older age. Got pregnant at 39. So, it was one of those things, but, once I might not have grown adult children or multiple children the way that a lot of my friends do or family members, but there's an element here of now can I hold space for being able to enjoy time with my daughter and to enjoy that experience? How can I show appreciation for the gift I've been given? Okay. And that came up for me because my daughter's name is Rose. And I can't help but get past that. Oh. All right. So we have surrendered to creativity. And then actually this kind of just turned over naturally as I was bending down. So we'll give you guys 2. We have surrendered to creativity, which I love because I've found in my own life, and I find over and over again with other people that I speak to, that often our creativity or, our innate ability to become an innovative and to find new ways happens when we are kind of at this point where we have no other way but to find a new way around something or go in a new direction. Because some way we were pushed basically all the way to the bottom. And now it's time we had to get creative. And so there's an element here of surrendering to that creative process, whatever that is for you, whether that's you realize your creativity comes up for you when you work out, whether it's writing, whether it's going on social media, sharing a part of yourself, whether that's taking a walk in nature, whatever it is that you realize that's where you're most innovative. It says, let your imagination soar. Stay open to all creative ideas about how to pursue a dream or solve a problem. Now, this is all for the concept of courage. So this is what Spirit's telling you to keep in mind as you're having the courage to really release the past and focus on redirecting your vision towards your star, your ultimate legacy, and kind of leveling up and, sharing some part of yourself you really want to share. Now, we also have surrender the habit of people pleasing, which I love. It says, speak your needs and be true to yourself. Focus on your own happiness instead of always trying to make everyone else happy. And this is something we can all keep in mind from time to time. But specifically for the next 2 months, this is very important when we think about surrendering to creativity, because often we will have these creative moments of insight. Again, part of trusting our intuition, where we see that next step for ourselves. And this is about really releasing the past so you can follow that next step. So you free yourself to go towards that next step. And yeah, it might, be something that somebody else doesn't like. But it's not about staying in your current work environment, because what are they going to do without you? It's not your problem, or it's not about staying in a current relationship that doesn't suit you because that person has nowhere else to go, or that person, will be so upset without you. Or it's not about, honoring the fact that, yes, this is a parent or another family member, a sibling, somebody like that who maybe now used to rely on you for something, and now you're saying, well, it's time for me to follow a new path, and they're the one kind of holding you back. There's an element here of realizing there's some aspect of your life that it's time to level up in. It's time for you to go out on a new adventure. But one in which is going to be, I think, very focused for a lot of you on finding a way to really lean into what you love and to make money from doing that. There is an element here of really using your intuition. And this could even though it could also be in a relationship, that you're realizing that you can manifest a relationship, that you can manifest what comes with a relationship and whatever you see that as. Like maybe you see yourself in a home, living in a specific lifestyle with a certain level of financial freedom with a significant other, and you're realizing, I can still have that for myself. I'm the one that needs to go out there and start creating from that place. And that might mean having to walk away from something in order to do that. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull a final card here for the concept of contemplation. And this is a final point of reflection that Spirit would like you to keep in mind throughout the month of September and October, to really hold yourself, to really ground this message into your everyday present moment. So we have share your voice. And I love it because there's a lot of sharing your voice here. Knight of Cups, sharing his voice from an emotional place. King of Swords and Eight of Wands. This is the truth about sharing your voice. This is the truth about communication. So there's something here around when it says come out of the cave, persecution, and expression. There's a theme here around being willing to share your experience, being willing to kind of come out in some aspect of your life where you have been repressed. Some aspect I'm really feeling where you emotionally suppressed yourself, and where now you have the ability to share from that place because you have emotionally matured. But you're being asked to really express. Communicate from a place of love for yourself. Communicate from a place of appreciation for the gifts you were given even through the difficult time. And I think what you're going to realize is that that's what's going to draw in for you guys the opportunity that is waiting to come in. And that could be the opportunity again for a new relationship, for a new job, for a new home environment. All right, and here's the final card. So this is going to be for the overarching spiritual lesson you're learning about yourself this over the next 2 months. So we have past life activation number 35, breaking down to number 8, which is a number all about personal empowerment, empowered leadership, and physical abundance. So yeah, I feel like you're actually, when we think about past life activation, before I read the excerpt from the book that comes with this oracle deck, I'm going to say something. Some people sit there and immediately tune out when they hear past life activation. They're like, I don't believe in past lives, da 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 da. And that's fine. None of us understand 100% the mystery of life and what lies beyond. What I can say is that when this card does come up, for those of you who don't connect with the whole past life concept, this can be where you are reactivating some aspect of your experience that did not come to be previously, meaning that you had maybe tried to have the family and the home and the significant other, and it ended in divorce with none of the above. Or this can be where you tried to follow a career path and it didn't quite work out, and now you get a chance to do it again. This can be where you had wanted to connect with a family member or reconnect, and it didn't work out. Maybe your relationship with that individual has not been in a good place since then, but this is your chance now to reconnect from a different place with them. There's an element here of being able to reactivate some aspect of either truly your past experience, your past life that didn't work out, or just something that didn't happen before, which is why you're being asked to kind of go through all of this again, do a big review, and realize it's time for me to trust my intuition this time around. Okay, so number 35. So we have past life activation. It says, you have talents within that have been developed through many varied life experiences. You have had many lifetimes already, even if you don't recall them consciously, helping you evolve and grow into the loving being that you are today. Your desire to grow in consciousness and spiritual power, to assist the divine plan unfolding throughout the universe, is heard and supported by the spiritual worlds in all ways. To this end, past life material is being activated now for your benefit and the greater good. Your soul has a history of lifetimes through which it has learned to be wise and developed certain talents. You have learned lessons and acquired skills and abilities. Sometimes these were mastered through very challenging circumstances. You might feel you are obtaining mastery in certain areas again this lifetime, again through challenging circumstances. The soul can certainly develop through joy, love, and happiness, but often it is through an experience of conquering a challenge that the real gems are won for the crown of the soul. The oracle of past life activation comes to you when a power you developed in a past life that would be useful for you to access in your current lifetime. Perhaps this talent or ability will become the seed of a spiritual vocation for you, a skill that expands your career or brings you personal joy. The ability that surfaces from the depths of your soul will be whatever is of greatest benefit to you now. Sometimes, while a treasure is emerging from the depths of your being into consciousness, it will be coated in the pain of the past, and that's exactly this. You're kind of revisiting something. It says you might notice the outer coating first, the pain of abandonment, rejection, ridicule, or shaming that perhaps resulted in the suppression or denial of that soul gift in your past life. This may be the reason you have not incarnated with it fully awakened and at your immediate disposal. You have to allow it to rise up to you, and you need to dig a little to crack open the coating of a wound and free the treasure that temporarily became trapped in that pain. When you release the pain, you free the treasure once locked within it. Perhaps your gift was challenging to a community in a past life, whereas now it would be more readily accepted because that community has matured spiritually over time. And that's interesting that came through, because there is this element with the King of Cups reversed about, again, that lack of emotional maturity or spiritual immaturity. So, perhaps there is something where even the other person at the time was not mature, and it was not necessarily you. It says, or perhaps you have matured and now will value your gift and be open to divine guidance to show you how to use it for the greatest good this lifetime. The gift you are reviving is worthwhile as you cleanse the memories, beliefs, or programs that once caused you to subconsciously protect yourself by hiding your talent, you will grow strong enough to process the pain and stand in the truth of your reclaimed gifts. If you have been considering a new line of work, feeling you'd like to explore or express different talents, or have the urge to develop an interest and transform it into a vocation, wow, this is right on point. You are very likely already feeling the stirrings of that past life activation now taking place for you. Trust the changes you feel. Yes, that high priestess, trust your instinct, your intuition. A part of your divine inheritance is being restored to you. Beautiful. Yeah. If you can release the pain of the past and see it from a new perspective as a blessing, that's where the hidden talent comes in, and that's what unlocks your ability to pursue some aspect of your experience that is a great dream of yours. All right, Gemini, I hope you all have a wonderfully liberating, emotional, and somewhat exciting next couple of months, because it can be really exciting when we realize where we've been holding ourselves back just out of fear tied to something in the past, and where we realize suddenly we're so much stronger and more capable than we were then, that it's very easy for us to make the decision this time around from a different place, or make a different decision. We get to make the decision we should have made then. We get to make it now. All right. For anyone who wants to visit my website to, either book a personal reading or just learn more about myself and the services I offer, I also have a blog on there if you just want to see some of how I write. All of that can be found in the link to my website in the description box below. And if I don't see you there, I look forward to seeing you all again in October for the October-November reading. Bye, everyone.